All right, so now that we see how many calories you estimated to burn in a day, how do you get that number to get you to the goals you want to go to? And so you need to, first of all, know what you want. Are you trying to lose some body fat? Are you trying to build muscle? Maybe you want to maintain. If you want to maintain, that's the easiest one. All you do is just continue eating that amount of calories. And as long as your activity level stays consistent and you eat the amount of calories from there, if you're trying to intentionally add muscle, add some weight to the scale, what I generally go by is a 10% increase. All right. 10% is not that big. I know in the bodybuilding community, we think that we need to have this high calorie intakes in order to put some weight on. And will it put weight on? Yes, it will. But understand, if you go too high, a lot of that weight that you put on will end up being body fat. And if you're a competitor, for example, uh, adding body fat on or adding it on in too high of amounts is going to be problematic, because when it's time to start burning that fat off, you run the risk of losing muscle with it. So, what I generally do is take a 10 to 20% increase over their current calories. So, if my number was supposed to be 27, we'll just say for simple math, 2,700 calories is what I burn in a day. I would add an additional 270 calories, taking me to the 2,970, or I'd probably just round up to make it 3,000 calories a day. All right. It's that simple. This way, I'm in a slight surplus, but I'm not so much in a surplus that I'm just putting on, additional fat. Now, one thing to understand is generally we consider a pound in the body to be about 3,500 calories. 3,500 calories, divide that by 7 days in a week, is roughly 500. It's not roughly, it is 500. 500 calories a day of a surplus or a deficit, hint, hint, is going to put on about a pound a week. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a pound of muscle or a pound of fat. It just says a pound. Okay. So that's why I don't do just the blind, we're going to do a 4,000 calorie diet and you're going to call it a bulking season. And because the scale weight's going up, everything's great. No, the scale weight might be going up, but you might be adding on more body fat than you are lean muscle mass. And that's not what you're trying to do. All right. So if you want to be cutting weight, well, take that total daily energy expenditure, and I like to tell people start off by subtracting 500. Now, for me, that would look like 2,700 calories, subtract 500, 2,200 calories a day, and that will put me into a calorie surplus if nothing else changes about my energy expenditure, meaning I don't add in cardio, I don't do anything. And just doing that, I should lose a pound by the end of the week. After 7 days, I should be 1 pound lighter. Now, it doesn't always work out like that, but it puts you in a good direction. Now, the medical industry says uh, an acceptable weight loss, a healthy weight loss, is somewhere between 1 to 2 pounds a week. So it's not like you're going to be, typical weight loss should be about 5 pounds, 10 pounds, these quick, real flashy, big numbers. Weight loss is about a balance, how much you eat and how much movement and activity and energy you're using. And if you decrease the amount of calories you are eating, but you also decrease the amount of calories you're using, you will not lose weight. You just won't. Now, there is a group that I do want to touch on real briefly, and that's the individuals that want to do a recomp, it's a body recomposition. It's the idea of burning fat and building muscle at the same time. And usually it's expected to be at the same rate. So if you burn a pound of fat, you're building a pound of muscle. And so the scale weight stays essentially the same, but you're tightening up and you're toning up and all of this stuff. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. It's just not very likely at all. The groups of people that will find benefits with body recomps will fall into one of three groups. Well, I guess technically four. First and foremost, new and returning lifters. Number two is going to be overweight, like severely overweight and obese individuals. Number three is going to be individuals that are taking some type of performance enhancing drugs. And the number fourth group is any combination of those other three groups. Those individuals, your body's in a different situation. As a new lifter, as a returning lifter, somebody that's not used to that stimulation, you're going to be in this newbie gain phase where building muscle is going to be just a little bit easier for you than others, especially new lifters. If you've never done resistance training, you are going to put on muscle a little bit faster than, a lot of bit faster actually than if you've been lifting for 5 years. Now, do not get intimidated by hearing a lot more muscle. A lot more muscle does not mean that you're going to be lifting and you're just going to end up looking like the Incredible Hulk. That's not how that works. It just means that this is the easiest phase for you to build muscle, but we're not talking about putting like 15 pounds on even in the course of a year. As a new lifter, you might be able to put on 20 pounds over the course of a year, but that number is going to decrease. And when it does, get ready for the grind, because that's where the real experience begins. But understand, like, to hit that kind of number of growth, you are going to have to be really focused and dialed into your workout routine and your eating habits and the rest of your life, like sleep and hormone balance and stress management. So don't get intimidated. For those of you who are going to be like, I don't want to put on a whole bunch of muscle, I just want to lose. Understand, the muscle is going to give you the shape of the body that you're actually looking for. Losing the fat will give you the size of that body. You will look leaner, but it doesn't mean you're going to come out looking like you ready to get on stage. If you have a coach that's telling you that you're going to do an intentional recomp and that they have some form of control over it, they don't. They're not telling you the truth. They're not aware of what they're even talking about, unless you fall into one of those three groups that we mentioned, four groups, and in which case, even then, they don't have as much control over it as they think they do. There are so many factors that are going to go into building muscle, but there's also some that are going to go into burning fat. They're at the opposite ends of the spectrum. On one hand, you're trying to grow, and that's a stimulation right there. And then you also want to trigger the body to use the excess calories stored as fat as energy. That's a whole nother pathway as well. And they normally don't do very well at the same time. Sorry to burst your bubble, but at least now you know why we're about halfway through with this series. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and then turn your notifications on so you can get notified when this next video drops and all the future videos. Until the next video,